Good afternoon, dear guests. On behalf of the Pallas Athény Publishing House, I would like to thank you for joining the book launch of the Hungarian version of Badass Habits. We are really honored that Jen Sincero, the author of the book, accepted our invitation for today. The book Badass Habits was published by Penguin Life last year, and now you can also read the Hungarian version. It is available on our website and at the bookstores. The author, Jen Sinceroval, is a #1 New York Times bestselling author and a success coach. To this webinar, we also invited Zsadány Vécsey, who is the founder of ALEAS Simulations, the Flow is Good Business project with Csíkszentmihályi. Now, Jen Sinceroval and Zsadány Vécsey is here with us live, and I would like to give the floor to them.
Thank you, Katinka. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Jen. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation. Just before we start, a few words about yourself. So you had an instructive personal journey leading from, as you mentioned it in an interview, a tiny, crappy apartment in Venice Beach, California, working as a copywriter, to a beautiful property in a small town in the mountains near Santa Fe, where actually you are now physically as well, and build up an impressive career as a success coach. And before this conversation, I just check out some of your readers' reviews on Amazon on your wonderful new book, Badass Habits, and quite an impressive feedback you got, actually. So I would like just to quote 3 of them here. One is that this has helped me improve my business and life habits. And by default, it's given me the courage to share my purpose-driven cause, wine that gives back. That's an interesting one. Here's another one. Love this book, full of practical tips. And maybe that one here, that Jen puts it right in front. You are a badass. I want to. Yep, she makes it easy and real. And I think that's one of the real strengths of your book, that it's practical, and fortunately not another selection of good advice on how Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk are building up their enterprises. But your thoughts are much more about ordinary people like we are. And you are actually talking and writing about how we ordinary people are able or are ready to turn our life into something extraordinary, as you did 10 years ago. So what's your secret, Jen?
Well, if I tell you, I have to kill you.
Good.
And I also want to point out that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos were ordinary people like all of us before they got successful. So it really is something that we all have inside of us. And I feel like for me, getting the success that I got was about a couple of things. I mean, the first and most important thing that I just want to say to everybody is, if you want to be successful in any area of your life, you have to do things that scare you, that make you uncomfortable. And that is probably the best piece of advice I have for anybody. You know, we're comfortable with the lives that are familiar to us, and that's the lives we have. So if we want to change, we have to do stuff that's uncomfortable. So I did a lot of really, really uncomfortable things, like reading self-help books. I thought they were really stupid and cheesy. Going to self-help seminars, hiring a coach for more money than I was comfortable spending, you know, always doing things that put me in a new place that I wasn't used to. Yeah, so that's my main thing.
Yeah, that's interesting, because this is about then of learning. So what you explained means to me that first of all, you have to understand the actual situation of yours, and then break the boundaries around you and start a learning journey. So this is a journey of learning, or this is a journey of just getting to know yourself more and more.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. So, and when you do push yourself outside of your comfort zone, as we like to call it, you learn so much about yourself. You learn what you're really scared of. You learn where you're being stubborn. You learn where you need to get more education. You learn what kind of people you need to start surrounding yourself with in order to succeed. You know, you learn how it affects the people you're surrounded with. People who you surround yourself with also is so important, because oftentimes what happens is we're surrounded by people who accept us as we are, right? So when you change, a lot of times it really upsets the people you're surrounded by. You know, I get this question all of the time when I do talks. You know, what do you do when the people closest to you don't support your hopes and dreams? And it's a very common question, because when you change, it upsets the balance and it upsets the people around you. So this is why it's so important to find new friends and find new support groups who are like-minded and who are also, you know, going for it and educating themselves and taking risks. It's one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the most interesting aspects of your book, that how we actually should behave within our own personal or even family environment if we are starting these changes. But before go back to this, there is a question, you know, so what should actually happen inside you to be able to start the very first step in this journey? So what is the real motivator changing the habits? It seems to be quite a difficult task to fulfill.
You have to get clear on why you want to change it. You know, let's say you want to lose weight. You want to lose 15 pounds. You have to get clear on why, or else when the temptation to eat a pizza comes in, you're going to be very clear on why you want to eat that pizza. So you have to be very clear on why you don't want to eat that pizza, why you want to be healthy and trim and feeling good about your body and carrying around less weight and looking sexy. You know, you have to find out what the main thing inside of you is that excites you, because we are creatures that are often more motivated by emotion than logic, right? How many times have you known something is a really bad idea, but it's going to be really, really fun? So you go do it anyway, right? We do that all the time. So you need to get into that emotional state about the habit that you're changing so that you can use it to overcome temptation. Because I promise you, temptation will be there. You have to be prepared for it.
So you have to know your whys. So that is the starting point. That's why you are existing, or why you would like to achieve something. That's the core.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it has to be a specific thing, and you have to identify it and feel the emotion of it. It can't just be up here. So the more time you spend imagining yourself 15 pounds lighter, go out and buy some clothes that will fit you when you're 15 pounds lighter and look at them every day and get excited about it. You know, surround yourself with other people who are also dieting and exercising, who will keep you excited and keep you accountable. It's about the emotion, and emotion comes from specifics. You can't have a vague idea like, I want to make lots of money, I want to be beautiful, I want to start my own business. That means nothing. It's about the specifics of your why that will call up the emotion. And it takes 5 minutes to sit down and get clear on what those are. And it's a very, very important step.
Okay. And just back to this eating the pizza, you know, from the refrigerator. So what you mentioned, Jen, for me is a kind of positive motivation, because actually the why is the cause. It's something positive you would like to achieve. So that's a very different approach than what we can see in magazines, you know, and read about that just put a fat person's picture on the on the refrigerator and that will help you. So you are on a different track. You say that having something positive to achieve is the real core of changing the habits.
Well, not necessarily. I think, you know, if the fat person on the refrigerator brings up emotion in you, then that's great. I'm more concerned with what you personally find motivating. You know, one of the main reasons I wrote "You Are a Badass" in the beginning was because I kept reading all these self-help books that were #1 New York Times bestsellers. And I was like, these people cannot write. I can write better than these people. So sometimes the negative thing gets you motivated. So I don't care what it is. I just want you to get fired up by it.
Okay, so the most important thing is that you are really one with your goal, and that provides you the energy. You define habits as no-brainers, a routine tendency of behavior, beliefs, thoughts, and actions that one repeats an autopilot. And you describing in your book, when repeating something enough times, a new neural pathway will be established in the brain that flows through effortlessly and automatically. And finally, you conclude that changing your actions only to form a new habit without changing actually who you are being is like running in the wind. Could you give a deeper explanation of that?
Yes, I would love to. This is such an important point, and it's honestly why most people fail when they try to change their habits, because they only focus on the actions and they don't focus on the inner work. And so it works for a little while, but then they eventually fall back. So let's say, for example, that you decide you're going to quit smoking, and you've been smoking for years and years and years, and you identify as a smoker who's quitting smoking, right? So even if you get rid of all your cigarettes and you start, walking more and using your lungs more, and you ask your friends not to smoke around you, and you take all of these actions to help yourself quit smoking. Maybe you get the patch or you chew nicotine gum. All those actions are great. But if you are seeing yourself as an ex-smoker, as somebody who is quitting smoking, you're still attached to the idea of smoking, and you're still embodying the identity as somebody who's an ex-smoker. Now, if instead you take all of those excellent actions and perceive yourself and identify as somebody who's so healthy, who takes great care of her body, who exercises and hangs out with other healthy people, then the notion of being a smoker is not inside of you anymore. It's not even on your radar. And one of the reasons this is so important is because it disengages you from what I call the negotiation process. So let's say, for example, you're an ex-smoker and you're in a bar and you're having a drink. And one of your favorite times to have a cigarette is when you're drinking. If you are identifying as an ex-smoker who's quitting, you're going to get into the negotiation with, well, I can just have one cigarette. It's not going to kill me. I've been doing so well. And you're going to get into that negotiation with whether or not to smoke. If you identify as somebody who's healthy, who takes great care of your body, who's active and determined to be as fit and healthy as you can, you don't negotiate with having a cigarette any more than you would negotiate with drinking a bottle of vodka for breakfast, because it's not who you are. It's not on your radar. So it makes the changing of your habit so much easier because it unhooks you from that association and that identity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it means that actually our realities are determined by how we habitually perceive ourselves and our worlds. And it means that trying to change the life without being self-aware will not work actually. And here's the question: to this. So how confident are the 21st century people? So do we have the right level of self-awareness nowadays? Because it seems to be that that's the number one step in this long journey, changing the habits. So do we have the right level of self-awareness nowadays?
You know, it's all a muscle. I think self-awareness and I think confidence, it's all muscles that you have to practice and build. So that's why we call it a spiritual practice, because you're always practicing, right? So I always compare it to going to the gym when you want to get in shape, when you want to get your physical muscles in shape. You don't go to the gym and get strong and then be like, yay, I'm strong. I don't have to go to that stupid gym anymore. You have to constantly work your muscles if you want to stay in shape. And so awareness and confidence and motivation and determination, they're all muscles. And so in all of my books, I talk about going to the spiritual gym. And so the spiritual gym is reading books like mine and other self-help books that you like, talking to smart people and motivated people who will keep that energy up in you, meditating, listening to music that pumps you up, exercising, saying a mantra, visualizing your success, all of those things. And it can take literally 20 minutes a day. It doesn't need to be a whole big drama, but you do have to show up because you need to keep those muscles in shape or else it's not going to work.
Okay, so that's definitely a long-term journey. So long-term journey, how to keep the level of the motivation, so that doing these new things every day and not just getting back to the wrong path. How to keep the motivation, Jen?
Yeah, it's all of those things, is the reading and the coming to events like this and getting, and I think it's also so important to have your specific things in mind. If you're determined to change your habits, figure out what specific things you can do and think about and visualize and act as if, so you'll be successful. It's not enough to be, you know, I'm gonna eat healthier, I'm gonna run every day, I'm gonna hang out with smart people. Who are you gonna hang out with and when? When are you gonna run and at what and how long are you gonna do it for? What inspirational music are you gonna listen to and when are you gonna listen to it? Put the specifics in place, put them on a damn calendar, so that, because what happens is then it's just a vague desire. But when you have it in the specific sense, not only does it call up the emotion, but it takes away the negotiation and the guessing of, maybe I'll do it later, maybe I'll do it now. If it's a non-negotiable, you do it right away. It just takes away a lot of the slippage that you can have, because it's very easy when you're changing something to come up with excuses and reasons why it's a good idea not to do it.
Yeah, sure. And just by the end of this conversation, we got some questions go through finally through the system from the audience. So Jen, that question goes to you. How did the pandemic affect the life of people? Did we change for the better or for the worse? Do people acquire healthier or unhealthier habits? How long do you think those habits will stay?
Oh, wow. You know, I think the pandemic is such an opportunity. And, you know, we were talking about how your perception determines your reality. You know, it's the whole glass is half empty, glass is half full. Definitely. So the pandemic was an incredible opportunity because it literally stopped us all with our habits, right? Like there were so many things that you just did every morning that just flew out the window. Now, you know, you'd get up, you'd have your coffee, you'd take your children to school, you'd go to your office, you'd go to your gym, like all of that stopped. And we were thrust into this alternate universe. And one of the beautiful things about that, and I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't incredibly challenging and difficult for people, because it was for so many people. I just want to point out that there was also a lot of really beautiful silver linings to it, where it allowed us a new awareness because it stopped us, and because we couldn't be on that autopilot, we were able to know about ourselves that we could then change, right? Because awareness is the first thing with changing your habits. So I'll just give you an example from my life where, you know, I'm from New York. I move 1,000,000 miles a minute. I'm always talking. I'm always doing things and producing things. And I literally couldn't travel the world anymore. I couldn't be out and about going on my book tours and starting projects. And I just had to shut up and sit at home. And at first it was really painful. But then I realized what a gift it was to just shut up and slow down and get a better meditation practice and get better at listening and really connect with my true deep desires that I think that I know I was pushing away by all this activity. So I think both things happen. I think we developed some bad habits. Certainly we got, you know, I got lazier. And I think we also had the opportunity to develop some really extraordinary new habits that we may not have had this pandemic not happened. And how long they last is how aware you are and how available you are to put these pieces of the spiritual gym in place. You know, you got to keep those muscles strong.
That's great. Thank you, Jen. Here's another question to you. How do you select the people you surround yourself with? What makes you motivated? That's actually a good question. So let's start with the people you surround yourself. So what's the criteria for selection, if there's any?
Yeah, well, first of all, how do they make you feel? Do they support you and cheer you on, or do they tell you all the reasons why your new idea is going to be really hard and it's not going to work? Do they complain a lot? Do they make fun of you because you're trying to change? You know, it really comes down to, do they support you, and do they excite you, and do they inspire you, or do they drag you down? What's the energetic there?
Okay, and what makes you motivated? That's a personal question.
What makes me motivated?
Yeah.
So these days, that's a really interesting question, and I you know, over the pandemic was thinking about this a lot, because I had a bit of a crisis trying to figure out what to do with myself and what I wanted to do next. And I'm so grateful for it, because it's really sent me in a bit of a new direction that I'm so excited about. For me to stay motivated, I have to find things that I think are fun to do. Okay. It has to, whatever the project is, has to give me energy, and it has to have meaning. And so that's sort of where I'm starting now. It used to be financial. I was very motivated by making money because I had no money. And so now that is not my main motivations, and it's a little bit disorienting, and it's a quality problem, but I was finding myself very unmotivated because that was always my motivation. So I had to find other things. And so it really is fun, energy, and meaning. And then personally, once I figure out what I'm doing, I find music so motivating. If I am listening to sad, and I love sad, beautiful music, but if I'm trying to get stuff done, I need loud rock and roll is my favorite personal choice. I love hiking and being out in nature and using my body and seeing a sunset. Who I hang out with is vitally important. And, you know, just taking care of my body and being in shape and eating well, those things all motivate me. And reading books and constantly studying and keeping my mindset strong also is hugely important.
Okay, thanks. And just the very last question from the audience here. Does it matter to understand why it was worth maintaining bad habits in the past? So just looking for the cause of the bad habits, does it help to overcome those?
I think it can, if you're really having trouble moving forward. So this is sort of like going to therapy versus getting a life coach, right? Therapy is all about untangling from past negative beliefs, and coaching is all about putting things in action and moving forward. And I think they both are very important. So if you've got some, especially a habit that you've been trying to change and trying to change and trying to change, and it's just, you just keep failing, I think it would be helpful to look back and get clear on what belief systems you have about your ability to quit smoking or your ability to lose weight. You know, a lot of, especially with the weight thing, actually, a lot of times it's protection against something bad that happened to you, or, you know, not wanting to be seen, or there can be things that are very, very deep down that are worth investigating if you're having trouble moving forward.
Okay. Okay, Jen, thank you very much. And as you explain in your book, and I think that's really a good closing thought here, is that the thrills from the little wins will keep you rolling toward victory.
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of how you see the world and how you see actually the all the energy you have to put in to change the bad habits and getting new ones.
Exactly. And that's all mindset, right? So it's your choice to either notice the little wins and to look at your failures as learning experiences and being grateful. And we always have a choice how we perceive something. So this awareness of catching yourself in complaining and feeling sorry for yourself and thinking things are impossible, catching yourself in a different choice is the most powerful thing you can do.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Congrats for your new book. We will definitely read it. Thank you very much. And let's keep this as your advice for all who wants to start their personal journey.